Welcome to this week's installment of Inclusion Revolution here on Eastlink Television. I'm your host, Tova, and this week we are talking about entrepreneurship for persons with disabilities. I think that we talk a lot about inclusion of persons with disabilities, and we will in future shows, but I have particular interest in entrepreneurship because I see so many clients with so many skills through my work who really would love to start a business and really don't know where to start. And for that reason, we've asked Brian Aird, who is the Executive Director of the Entrepeneurs with Disabilities Network. We're very excited to have Brian here, and welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Tova.
Thank you for, first of all, joining the Inclusion Revolution. I don't know if you know yet, but you're now a member.
Oh, it's a pleasure. That's great.
You won't get a bill. It's okay. It's free. Brian, I guess the reason I really wanted to have you on today is I see so many people interested in entrepreneurship who live with all kinds of diverse disabilities. And, you know, as we've discussed in previous shows, stigma is a big issue for people. And I guess I want to ask you first why we need an Entrepreneurs with Disabilities Network in the first place. And I know there are across Canada agencies much like yours. And my really first question is, why do entrepreneurs even need agencies specifically focused on entrepreneurship for them?
Yeah. Well, entrepreneurship is a great vehicle for people with disabilities, for one thing. It's an ideal vehicle. And our role as an advocate for entrepreneurs with disabilities is clearly one of the first things is working with preconceived notions of the traditional supporters of entrepreneurs throughout the country.
Could you be more specific about that?
Sure. We have a huge network across the country of people supporting entrepreneurs.
Okay.
They're lenders, they're business plan writers, they're
focused on entrepreneurs
investors.
with disabilities.
Well, no, focused on entrepreneurs themselves.
Thank you. Okay.
A lot of these people may have some preconceived notions of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And I always think of the example of Roger Bannister. In 1954, the whole world thought no one could break the 4-minute mile. The doctors, the psychologists, the sports therapists, everyone. No one can humanly break it, so no one did break it. Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, then suddenly everyone started breaking the 4-minute mile. So the same concept with preconceived notions with what it takes to be an entrepreneur. We work with examples of successful entrepreneurs in the past, in the present, and working towards the future.
So much like when I work with people in jobs or employment opportunities, and I consider them to be ambassadors, I don't mean ambassadors in some unusual way, just that there's so much stigma out there around disability, whether as business owners or employees. Often that person does become that ambassador, and those good experiences lead to other opportunities. And that's much like the same with entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. And a lot of people think, when they think of the word disability, they have a visual in their mind of what a disability is. And if you think of the country, how many people have disabilities, the percentage of Canadians that have a disability, the range is phenomenal.
They say actually 1 in 7 Canadians self-identify as having disability, and as you and I both know, the self-identification is the big asterisk, because self-identification means there's plenty of people who don't. I remember my mother listening to one of my radio shows in the past, and she actually called me with her Servox, and I've mentioned that in previous episodes, but she called me and said, "Who's this person with disability you're talking about?" I can't do the Stephen Hawking impression. But and I laughed, because imagine how many people truly live with disability if people really understood what disability means, how inclusive that definition is. But let's get back to your point, which is I'm a person with disability and entrepreneurship is a good idea for me. Why versus maybe going to work for someone else, assuming I have the skills to do either?
Say you have skills for either. For many people with a disability, it's the most ideal choice for sure, because they can set their own hours, they can set the parameters of what they want in the work. It used to be thought that entrepreneurship was a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week commitment kind of thing. Now you see it really clear. An entrepreneur with a disability can arrange the business according to their interests, their passion, their desires. Also, what they're doing with the help of EDN and all the other entrepreneurship organizations across the country is finding peers to work with, finding partnerships perhaps, finding mentors, and creating a team process, which entrepreneurs typically have done throughout the years anyway. But it used to be thought of entrepreneurs with disabilities were sort of a secluded private group, and almost none of these things were thought of as that for that group itself.
Right. So what I'm hearing is, first of all, that it's a great choice because A, you get to set your hours. Unlike the old days when a mom-pop operation meant everybody worked 24 hours and you fed yourself if you were the kids. I remember my dad owning a business, and certainly I never thought of him as selecting his hours. He'd come home, have his dinner, and he'd be gone. But something new is going on is what I'm hearing. And of course, being the Inclusion Revolution, we're always interested in new ways of looking at things. And I'm hearing from you that number one is that you can often set hours of when you're able to do the work, depending on the work. Obviously, you have a storefront, it's a little different.
I remember one of the first businesses we had, I was a partner with my wife at the time, and our son was 2.5 and our daughter was quite new. And my son was starting to act peculiarly, badly, and his behavior was odd. And my wife sat down with him one day and said, you know, having Colleen in the house, it's a big adjustment. You don't get the same attention. He said really clearly. He must have been 3. I said really clearly, I love Colleen. I can't stand the business. Because for us, the business was every moment. So what I learned from that, and I take to our work now, is develop the business that makes sense for you, for your interests, for your passion, for wherever you want to take it.
So I'm a person with a disability who believes they have a good idea. Can you give me maybe an example so we can actually run through the process of someone with a disability that perhaps, you know, went into entrepreneurship, and maybe we can walk through some of those steps? I think it'd be really, really helpful for our listeners to hear some of the real practical steps that someone would take based on the fact that they believe. And first of all, before we even do that, I guess I have to ask you is how do you determine that you're a good candidate for a business owner, or as a business owner?
Sure, people have to do their own determination. I think Canada has done, and Nova Scotia in particular, has done a really good job with promoting entrepreneurship, promoting it as a vehicle for people to take control of their lives. We've done such a good job. I think that there's a lot of people think they can do it without understanding what it takes to be an entrepreneur, what it takes.
Right. So there's so much excitement and promotion about entrepreneurship. Often people jump in with that excitement and the opportunity, but what the reality is, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, and those challenges is where they kind of hit their wall and don't always succeed.
Yeah, so what we do, and not succeeding is the worst thing, right? It sets everyone back.
Hard to try again when you fall off that horse.
Because you fall even lower than ever before. So what we do is, it used to be years ago, people would take all these self-assessments, tick off the box, it's most like you and all that stuff, and then it tells you whether you're suitable or not. And that's fine, but what we do now is we find that if someone's an aspiring entrepreneur, hook them up with entrepreneurs. Give them opportunities to meet with people who are in business, not their own business that they want to aspire to, but any business at all.
Right, just to get experience. So it's what I used to call shadowing. So in a sense, the first step you'd like to see any smart entrepreneur who wants to move in that direction is find a way to shadow with another agency or a business that sort of reflects what small business ownership is, even if it isn't necessarily your particular field.
And we call it mini mentor moments.
Mini mentor moments. More alliteration. I love that.
Well, we like that, you know.
Say that fast.
Yeah, no. Thanks. So, but we give them opportunities to meet with someone who is a mentor for that moment, and perhaps that mentor will become a mentor forever, or a period of time, or maybe just that 5 minutes or 5 hours, whatever it is.
So tell me a little bit about what these mentors might provide, because the word mentor means a lot to a lot of people, and I'm always big on defining our terms.
Yeah, they provide a sense of reality.
Reality.
I think that's probably the biggest thing, and the mentors, anyone who's in business has a sense of euphoria at time and a sense of deep discouragement at time. Everyone experiences the same thing. So the mentor relationship would probably give both examples and the whole range.
Basically a real look inside of what it really takes, because this is a person experiencing it, which is really helpful. So we know that the first thing we hope our entrepreneur with disability will do, in addition to hooking up with obviously agencies like yours that can take them through the process, is to find that mentor, and in your case the mini mentor moment. Did I say it? Oh goodness, thank you. So, and that would be a really important first step, because like any job, you want to see what it really takes. I know I've used job shadowing a lot for clients who want to be in different fields, and it works very, very well. What I also want to talk about when we come back is a little bit about the step of, okay, I've seen the mentor, I think I can do it, I want to do it, I'm calling you, Brian, and saying, I'm a person with disability, I want to be an entrepreneur, I've done this little mini mentor moment, I feel solid, I feel like I'm ready to go, but now what is my next step? So when we come back from the next break, I'd like to be able to talk to you a little bit about that. I also want to remind all of our viewers that they should check out the website inclusionrevolution.com, which will give you a tremendous amount of information on the discussion we're having today. We're going to link to Brian's website as well as give you some other additional entrepreneurial information. So also, in addition to listening to the show today, be sure that you check out the website inclusionrevolution.com, because you're going to find out more about EDN, more about entrepreneurship for persons with disabilities, and of course all the other cool things that our website always has. So we're looking forward to finish sort of following up with you, Brian, on those next steps when we come back with break. So we'll be right back with Inclusion Revolution here on Eastlink Television. See you in a moment.